Supernatural Season 13, Episode 6, Tombstone. This is definitely a great episode. Super funny episode. That was what I would say was like the main focus of it. We get to see our quartet, at least for once. I was very upset, I'll be honest. I was very disappointed with the way they ended the episode, but it's just like, alright, I guess that's just how it's got to be. It's got to be a trio. It can't be all four of them together. But I was admittedly really upset because I was looking forward to so much more of what we got in this episode. But it was definitely a funny one. We get to see Dean doing his cowboy thing again with him being obsessed. It took me right back to, I don't even remember what season that was, but the episode where Sam and Dean actually went back in time, and Dean like hated the Wild West. He was super happy to go there, and he was wearing the poncho, and people made fun of him and stuff. And he was ordering like all the wrong drinks and everything. He just like everything just upset him. So it took me back to that episode of him like just freaking out about cowboys and everything. And he had the worst reaction ever when they found out what the monster was. Where he's like, "Oh man, that's this dude." I think it was like Ted Mathers or something like that, and he was like, yeah, he's like one of the greatest gunslingers ever. And he was like, he was like ecstatic, and he was like, I mean, he died in 1886, so this is pretty weird, but man, that's awesome. I was like, that is not the right reaction to have, because you like are a huge nerd over cowboys. And it was just super funny. He was like, yeah, he died, over a century ago, but man, that's super freaking awesome. It's like, I'm gonna get my boots. I'm like, that is not the reaction he should be having right now. It's like, oh, we found the monster, let's kill it. But he's just like, holy crap, I get to fight one of my, cowboy heroes. So, super funny watching him, like, geek out over all the nerdy stuff. He was, when they first get there, he's like, oh man, they have, spur, hooks and stuff for the clothing and everything. So, it was just super funny. And him going through with Cass when they first go and they do like the slow motion and stuff. Cass, it just did not fit what he was wearing. I was like, the hat's a totally different color that doesn't match the outfit. And it was like one of the straw cowboy hats, so it looked even weirder. I was like, that just doesn't fit at all. Like, Dean was doing okay, but for Cass, it was just like he just threw a hat on him and that was it. I'm like, it just doesn't work with what he's wearing right now. But it was so funny watching him go through, and they're kind of, throughout the entire episode, Jack was actually really awesome. Until he made that mistake like towards the end or like in the middle, I guess. He was doing great. It was like, hey, everybody comes back. He meets Cass. It's like, wow, it's great to see you. All this stuff. He's like, yeah, I found a case. This happened, and they go there, and it's like, yep, I got the security footage and all this stuff. He was doing really well because he like learned from watching Sam and Dean. And he learned a couple of lessons from Cass as well, like maybe don't wake Dean up because he'll freak out and pull a gun on you. He's just like, ah, and so he learned that lesson in this episode. But it was really cool watching his story kind of progress in this one. And I was, like I said, it was unfortunate that it ultimately ended with him leaving because he was scared that he couldn't control himself. But it was a nice progression for his character. It was still really good with him, understanding how to be a better hunter and kind of going through the whole process, and then realizing during the whole shootout, like, oh, I can handle this. And he's walking and he's happy because he gets shot and nothing happens to him, and he's like, I got it. And so he controls his power to knock the ghoul out. And that's when the security guard like runs out there to try to stop him as well, so he ends up hitting both of them. And it really sucks because he got him, but he killed the security guard, and then the ghoul actually just ends up escaping. It was like, man, that just ends up making it worse because he was, it was just an honest mistake. Like, he knew what he was doing and he had complete control. It just happened to be the security guard hopped out at the last second and he was going to try to take him down, and he was knocked into the pillar, and it like almost killed him instantly, pretty much. And even Cass couldn't save him, which I figured was going to be the case because otherwise it would have kind of ruined the point of that moment. I'm like, he's not going to be able to save him. And of course, he bleeds out and he dies. And, he just kind of has to live with that. And it's like, alright, well, now that this happens, you have Sam and Cass taking Jack back to the bunker, and Dean, continues on with the mission himself. And they try to talk him down. It's like, hey, you don't need to freak out. It was an honest mistake. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And they try to do it later in the episode when Dean does get back. And it's like, yeah, like, if you think you're a monster, then we're all monsters. We've all done really bad things. They've certainly all killed innocent people. Like, every single person in that room has killed someone that was purely innocent. It was either because, they didn't have a soul at one point, or they were taken over by monsters. And, Cass's case and Dean's case, being taken over by the mark and stuff like that, like just killing people. Like something has happened to all of them that made them kill someone. And then there are moments where they weren't taken over, where they just screwed up. Like that's also happened as well, where they legitimately screwed up just like Jack. And they try to tell him, even Dean, which was a big deal, tries to tell him like it's just a mistake. Like we're all monsters if that's the case, but you can't destroy yourself over that accident that happened when you're trying to do something good. You have to just do good later. And Jack doesn't feel like it's as simple as that, because he of course hasn't been through it all, and he's still in the middle of dealing with, can he be good, or is he going to just end up being evil? So he knocks everybody down. It's like, I'm sorry, but I have to go. And then he just disappears, and he takes off at the end. So sadly, we are down back to our trio, Sam, Cass, and Dean. But it'll be cool to see what they do in these coming episodes, as far as how everything's going to play out with them trying to find Jack, what story elements we're going to get of Jack on his own. That I'm very curious about. Like, where's he going to go? Who is he going to interact with? I'm sure he's going to have millions upon millions of creatures looking for him anyway. And that seems to already be the focus of the next episode, even though no one knows where he is. It's like the angels coming back, like, he kind of belongs to us. He's sort of our property. So there's still a lot of elements to him being hunted as this insanely special creature that people don't know. None of the demons or angels really know anything about. Like, no one knows how to kill him. No one knows how to really wound him or anything like that. It's all up in the air, but they are still looking for him. So I'm definitely excited for how that's going to play out in the next episode, those interactions. Of course, Cass coming back to life and dealing with the angels. I'm excited for that to play out for sure, and just to see what everyone's going to say there. But it should be interesting watching watching our trio, be back officially, and then they're trying to, find Jack and help him realize he can still be the hero. So looking forward to that. Like I said, this episode itself, I feel like, the actual main story of the episode is meant to be really funny, because it's Dean being a super nerd over the cowboy stuff. They end up hunting down a ghoul, and that was pretty much it. That was like the point of that. Like, the important stuff had to do with the accident that came in towards the middle of the episode, really. And it was definitely well done. Jack was definitely a focus with him. Like I said, he was doing great finding the security footage and all that stuff. He knew what he was doing. It was like, oh, this is actually kind of awesome to watch Jack be more competent as a hunter, because he has been watching Sam and Dean, and then he makes that big mistake, which they've made a million times, and for him it's just like, crap, I don't know how to handle that, because I don't know if I'm meant to be a monster or not. So that was definitely the focus of this episode. I did enjoy the main case. I definitely thought it was good, because it led to some great comedic moments with all the cowboy stuff. Definitely silly. Them having like the crazy shootout was actually an interesting sequence, because they were just shooting up the place. Like, the dude's just shooting with a revolver. They're trying to shoot him, but they can't kill him. So there's just a lot of back and forth. The action was pretty cool there. And then like the ending way where they kind of finish everything out, where Dean is teaming up with the sergeant, I believe he was, because he wasn't the sheriff. But it was with the sergeant and everything. So that was actually a pretty cool sequence, where it's like, he gets busted, and then he like moves to the side so that the sergeant can actually kill the ghoul and blow his brains out. But it was pretty nice. It was a pretty simple case. Dealt with the ghoul. Ghoul had been living in the town for a minute as this dude who died in the Old West, and he was pretending to be this woman's boyfriend for quite some time. So that was definitely an interesting little twist on it. It was like, oh, he's been around for a minute, and she just never realized, like, oh, he's stolen the face of someone who used to live in, like, the Old West. Like, even with that town being the way that it was still just a normal town full of normal people. It was like that specific hotel was like everything cowboy. But unless you're like Dean, you're gonna see this random dude and it's like, oh, I'm Ted. Okay, cool. You're not gonna be like, oh snap. Not everyone's gonna think like that's Ted Mathers or whatever the name really was. This Old West cowboy who's been dead for centuries now. So, or almost 2 centuries. So it was just pretty funny, kind of watching that. So I definitely loved the main case for the comedy that kind of came up. But definitely the important stuff in this episode was, without a doubt, Jack. Oddly enough, it wasn't even Cass's return. It was definitely more focused on Jack. I'm sure we'll deal with that, like I said, with the angels coming into play in the next episode. I think next week's episode will do a lot more with Cass's actual return, and it'll focus more on that story element and a bit more about the empty, potentially. But this episode focusing on Jack I thought was great. And like I said, made me laugh for sure. And that's pretty much all you can ask for with Supernatural. Just some cool story, main story elements, and then Dean doing something that's super nerdy and really, really funny. So enjoyed the episode without a doubt. Sucks to see Jack go. I did, like I said, I was definitely disappointed that that happened, but you know, I guess it's got to happen. It would just be too easy. I mean, it would just be too easy. He was definitely getting competent. So it was like, all right, if he didn't freak out from that mistake and he stayed with them, everything would have been super easy for them. You know, it would have been nothing. Like, he is at this point invincible. Like, there's gonna be something naturally that takes him down. Possibly, I would have to assume it's gonna be those crazy creatures that Asmodeus was trying to have him raise. If Lucifer was freaking out about those, then maybe they can do some damage to Jack himself. So that's like the one theory I got as far as what could take him down. Um, you know, I mentioned in my last review as far as the Billy being like the new version of Death and her having a new ring. Maybe new ring, new powers. Those could probably affect Jack as well. We don't really know just yet. But, you know, there's a couple of things out there where I'm like, maybe that could be an effect. And then who knows what brand new element is going to randomly come into play. Like, nope, this is what ends up hurting Jack or, you know, something like that. But fun episode, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I would love to know where you guys think Jack is headed. You know, kind of doing his solo thing. What is that going to lead to? Who he's going to run into? I would assume, oddly enough, with the promo, I don't think we'll see Jack at all. Even though I feel like we should. I feel like with everything that, like, it'll be like everyone looking for him, but we probably won't see him until like maybe the very end of the episode. He might be in it, but I feel like that might be how they play it, where no one knows where he is at all, and we don't get to see it till the very end, and it'll be like a bit of a reveal, like, oh, this is where he retreated to, and it'll probably be like a bit of a special reveal. That's my theory on it. I could be totally wrong. He might just show up in the first scene of the episode or something like that. But, you know, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And like I said, I want to know your theories on, you know, what's going to happen with Jack kind of just being out there on his own, trying to figure out who he is. Would love to know your theories on that. And of course, just want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.